Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. Awareness hurts. When you open your eyes and you see what's going on, we realize there's a kind of hopelessness all around us. And yet, illness, weakness, it's not contemptible. It grips our compassion. We feel anguished in the bowels, is the way the Aramaics say it about how Jesus felt about the poor people that he saw. It's like you kind of wince and double over with gut-wrenching awareness of what's happening to so many people. And so for me, I have to revision yoga and make it much more luxuriant than an escape from the material plane and all that conditions it. One way I always say is that we're living in an age where we can reclaim language from its religious and theological trappings and its kind of biblical source, so we can talk about spirituality in many other forms without necessarily having to go into the traditional religious forms. Or I love Carl Jung's statement that organized religion is a way of preventing religious experience. So what we all hunger for is the deep self, whatever that is. We sense that there's something there that knits us together, unites us with everyone. And although we'll all get buffeted about, you learn to fight. You learn to take up the spiritual conflict, the inner conflict. You got to get rid of your inflated self, right? The part that thinks it's hotter than it really is. And you also have to get rid of the part that thinks of yourself as worthless, lower than you really are. So you don't either idealize yourself or devalue yourself. You find the median plane. And then, to some extent, confusion of identity and the restlessness and insecurity about whether are you really great or you're really a piece of shit, that kind of falls away. Those are the not the issues anymore. But the important thing is you learn to look at the shadow, the stuff in you that's holding you back. Because if you don't, you'll have a hard time finding what song to sing, what dance to do. So the initiation is an initiation into the aesthetic of your own life, the aesthetic of your own soul quality, and how you perceive everything. Just as every individual, including ourselves, is tormented by their own suffering and has a particular language that they're very fluent in how they describe their suffering, how they approach their suffering, what they do about their suffering. And so this is where, in the modern age, I say initiation comes through breakthrough experiences or breakdown experiences, where you don't know where you're going, you're not in control. It changes your ontological status forever. And sometimes it happens under the guise of a mentor. And I always like to remind everybody, your parent is not your mentor. They're the ones that are supposed to put the roof over your head and safeguard you up to a certain point. But they're not necessarily on the same spiritual path as you. Right? I always say that they're high priest and priestess in a different temple. So how can they possibly worship with you? When you find your mentor, though, you and your mentor are in competition with each other. And here it doesn't mean trying to win over the other person like a game where you're in a tennis match and you have competition against the other person. You're both petitioning the same God. So they get you. They see you. They're not so worried about how you're going to survive as a parent wants to make sure that you survive okay. But they see your spiritual nature and they give you the tough task to do, which you usually fail at the beginning. The important thing is that the mentor creates a field of visibility for you so that you can see the beauty of what it's like when you're further up the road or when you're cooked. And then you're not just lost in the pain of the struggle. Right? It's not the agony of the revelation. It's not the agony of the quest, as Joseph Campbell says, but the rapture of the revelation. So I hope you'll find your own way to turn your negative thoughts into protectors for you and engage yourself not just in a life of introspection, but even a different kind of psychology of extroversion. Not extroversion in the sense of materialism, the crassness of just being lost in the secular life, but putting out your best self into the world, serving the world with the gifts that only you have to give and only for this you came. And so once you understand that, you'll find that, believe it or not, the inferior part of yourself can turn out to be the savior. And so don't reject the weak, the vulnerable, the uncertain, the frail, There's some beauty there for you to expose yourself to the authenticity of what your humanity is, and that invites other people to come along for the ride as well. So I hope that you find your way to impart what I call the romance with your imagination. You're free to think, create whatever you want, make it as beautiful, loving, peaceful, and truthful as you can. I'll meet you there.